There we go. Meeting recorded. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to start a new paper in the Urantia Book, paper 140, and this is part one of that, beginning the public work. And that is on page 1587.1 in the original book, or paper 14101 and all the rest of them. Okay, let's get started here. Paper 141, beginning the public work. On the first day of the week, January 19th, AD 27, Jesus and the 12 apostles made ready to depart from their headquarters in Bethsaida. The 12 knew nothing of their master's plans except that they were going up to Jerusalem to attend the Passover feast in April, and it was the intention to journey by way of the Jordan Valley. They did not get away from Zebedee's house until near noon because the families of the apostles and others of the disciples had come to say goodbye and wish them well on their new work they were about to begin. So they were all gathered there in Bethsaida, and their family saying goodbye to them and stuff, like they were leaving forever, right? Okay.
It was a long way then.
Yeah, it was a very long way. This is a picture of where they traveled, and there's another one right here. Okay, and you can see here the home of Zebedee's and the pathway they went along the Jordan there. Okay, Diane.
Just before leaving, the apostles missed the master, and Andrew went out to find him. After a brief search, he found Jesus sitting in the boat down the beach, and he was weeping. The 12 had often seen their master when he seemed to grieve, and they had beheld his brief seasons of serious preoccupation of mind, but none of them had ever seen him weep. Andrew was somewhat startled to see the master thus affected on the eve of their departure for Jerusalem, and he ventured to approach Jesus and ask, "On this great day, Master, when we are to depart for Jerusalem to proclaim the Father's kingdom, why is it that you weep? Which of us has offended you?" And Jesus, going back with Andrew to join the 12, answered him, "No one of you has grieved me. I am saddened only because none of my father Joseph's family have remembered to come over to bid us good speed." At this time, Ruth was on a visit to her brother Joseph at Nazareth. Other members of his family were kept away by pride, disappointment, misunderstanding, and petty resentments indulged as a result of hurt feelings. Why were they?
Their feelings were hurt because they weren't included on Jesus's plans as disciples or apostles. So that's what the big problem was. But he still was upset that they did not come to wish him well on this new journey. Leaving Galilee, Capernaum was not far from Tiberias, and the fame of Jesus had begun to spread well over all of Galilee, even to parts beyond. Jesus knew that Herod would soon begin to take notice of his work, so he thought best to journey south into Judea with his apostles. A company of over 100 believers desired to go with them, but Jesus spoke to them and besought them not to accompany the apostolic group on their way down the Jordan. Though they consented to remain behind, many of them followed after the Master within a few days. All right, let's go on to the next one. Letch, I see you out there. Would you like to take the next one, the first day?
Okay. The first day, Jesus and the apostles only journeyed as far as Jericho, where they rested for the night. The next day, they traveled to a point on the Jordan before, and where Jesus had received baptism. Here they tarried for more than 2 weeks, teaching and preaching. By the end of the first week, several hundred people had assembled in a camp near where Jesus and the 12 dwelt. And they had come from Galilee, Phoenicia, Syria, the Decapolis, Perea, and Judea.
Okay, so they had quite a few people that followed them around, right? Once Jesus started teaching. All right. Let's see. Jesus did no public preaching. Andrew divided the multitude and assigned the preachers for the forenoon and afternoon assemblies. After the evening meal, Jesus talked with the 12. He taught them nothing new, but reviewed his formal teachings and answered their many questions. On one of these evenings, he told the 12 something about the 40 days which he spent in the hills near this place. That's when that was after the baptism, right? All right, dear.
Many of those who came from Perea and Judea had been baptized by John and were interested in finding out more about Jesus' teachings. The apostles made much progress in teaching the disciples of John, inasmuch as they did not in any way detract from John's preaching. And since they did not at this time even baptize their new disciples, but it was always a stumbling stone to John's followers that Jesus, if he were all that John had announced, did nothing to get him out of prison. John's disciples never could understand why Jesus did not prevent the cruel death of their beloved leader. That would have been hard to deal with.
I said, yeah, it was, but we got to remember that John uh, was teaching and preaching things that didn't agree with Jesus. Okay. So what John was teaching was repentance from sin, and he still believed in the sacrificial stuff, where Jesus was not teaching that anymore. His message was about the love of the Father and the brotherhood of man. So he had a different message than John, and he made very specific effort not to teach anything in conflict with John, which would have been hard to do. So that's how that went. Pam, would you take the next one, please?
Yeah. From night to night, Andrew carefully instructed his fellow apostles in the delicate and difficult task of getting along smoothly with the followers of John the Baptist. During the first year of Jesus' public ministry, more than 3/4 of his followers had previously followed John and had received his baptism. This entire year of the AD 27 was spent in quietly taking over John's work in Perea and Judea.
So he picked up where John left off then, really. Okay. All right. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. The night before they left Pella, Jesus gave the apostles some further instruction with regard to the new kingdom.
Letch, could you read the title and start over so that because people at home, some of them can't see the slides, they just listen. So
God's law and the Father's will.
Thanks.
The night before they left Pella, Jesus gave the apostles some further instruction with regard to the new kingdom. Said the Master, "You have been taught to look for the coming of the kingdom of God, and now I come announcing that this long-looked-for kingdom is near at hand, even that it is already here and in our midst. In every kingdom there must be a king seated upon his throne and decreeing the laws of the realm. And so have you developed a concept of the kingdom of heaven as a glorified rule of the Jewish people over all the peoples of the earth, with Messiah sitting on David's throne, and from this place of miraculous power promulgating the laws of all the world. But my children, you see not with the eye of faith, and you hear not with the understanding of the Spirit. I declare that the kingdom of heaven is the realization and acknowledgement of God's rule within the hearts of men. True, There is a king in this kingdom, and that king is my father and your father. We are indeed his loyal subjects, but far transcending that fact is the transforming truth that we are his sons. In my life, this truth is to become manifest to all. Our Father also sits upon a throne, but not one made with hands. The throne of the infinite is the eternal dwelling place of the Father in the heaven of heavens. He fills all things and proclaims his laws to universes upon universes. And the Father also rules within the hearts of his children on earth by the Spirit which he has sent to live within the souls of mortal men.
Okay, this has got a lot of stuff in it that I need to at least say something about. First of all, uh, Jesus is trying to relate to the people that the kingdom of heaven is a good concept, but it's not the earthly type kingdom where you have a king. So he tries to explain it in such a way that they will understand, and that God the Father is actually the king of the universes of universe. And can you imagine being someone back in this time that has no concept that there's anything in reality other than the earth, right? And they didn't even think the earth was round. They thought it was flat, right? So when Jesus starts talking about universe of universes and things like that, the general population is going to be totally lost because they have no idea of what he's talking about, right? So their concepts back then was totally different. So he's trying to relate to the people that you can think as God as a king, but in reality, we are all sons of God, and that we are a big family, and that's where the family of men come in too, right? The love everyone in your brotherhood. So he's trying to introduce this concept that God may be the head of the family, but everyone in the family is of equal value to God and children of God. And we all are children of God. And in reality, we are brothers and sisters to Jesus himself and Michael. And is what it boils down to, under God the Father. So I wanted to bring up that point about the heavens of heavens and the universes upon universes, because these are not concepts they knew readily. Their concept of the world was what they saw around them. All right. So that's why he's trying to explain this to them in such a way that they will understand. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes, I will. I was just looking that says by the third century BC, the spherical shape of the earth was widely accepted.
That's probably because of the Christian teachings, right?
I don't know.
You would think
I was
so.
just wondering.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's good that we're finally in the part of the book where we're getting instructions.
Yeah, well, you remember, what was it, the 13th century? 1300 and something, that Galileo was really persecuted for telling people the earth was round. Remember that? That's
Yeah.
1300 years after that. So, learning is slow. All right.
When you are the subjects of this kingdom, you indeed are made to hear the law of the universe ruler. But when, because of the gospel of the kingdom, which I have come to declare, you faith discover yourselves as sons, you henceforth look not upon yourselves as lost subject creatures of an all powerful king, but as privileged sons of a loving and divine Father. Verily, verily, I say to you, when the Father's will is your will, your law, you are hardly in the kingdom. But when the Father's will becomes truly your will, then you are in very truth in the kingdom, because the kingdom is thereby becoming an established experience in you. When God's will is your law, you are noble slave subjects. But when you believe in this new gospel of divine sonship, my Father's will becomes your will, and you are elevated to the high position of the free children of God, liberated sons of the kingdom.
And that's why we say in our prayer, by allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. So when God's will becomes your will, and you're truly sons of God, you're children of God at that point. Faith sons. Notice it said faith discover yourselves as sons. So it takes faith to discover yourself as sons, even though you're already in that position. Is that hard to understand? In other words, you are born as sons of God, children of the eternal, but you have to have faith to discover yourself as those sons. And then from there on, you're not just subjects of the powerful king of all, but you're part of the family of God. And that faith sonship makes you a privileged individual in the kingdom itself, because you have the gospel of the divine sonship. You become divine sons. You know, it's kind of funny too, because as we teach this book, it talks about paradise sons. It talks about Lananandek sons, Verandadek sons, and those are local universe sons of God. It talks about a lot of different sons, but in essence, starting out on the very lowest level as mortals, we are already sons of the living God and in the family of God just by believing. All right. I don't know who that is. I'll have to leave a message. Okay. Let's go on. Let's see here. I guess I'm up on again, huh? All right. Some of the apostles grasped something of this teaching, but none of them comprehended the full significance of this tremendous announcement, unless it was James Zebedee, who in these words sank, but when these words sank into their hearts and came forth to gladden their ministry during later years of service, because they all eventually realized that they were sons of God, just like Jesus is a son of God. All right, dear.
3, the sojourn at Amathus. The master and his
Amathus.
man, man,
Amathus.
okay,
Apostles.
sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. The master and his apostles remained near
Amathus.
Amethyst for almost 3 weeks. The apostles continued to preach uh, twice daily to the multitude, and Jesus preached each Sabbath afternoon. It became impossible to continue the Wednesday playtime, so Andrew arranged that 2 apostles should rest each day of the 6 days in the week, while all were on duty during the Sabbath services.
Okay, so that way they rotated who was off and stuff, and they always had someone that was helping preaching, right? All right. Keeps rearranging my screen. Pam, you're up next.
Okay. Peter, James, and John did most of the public preaching. Philip, Nathaniel, Thomas, and Simon did much of the personal work and conducted classes for special groups of inquirers. The twins continued their general police supervision, while Andrew, Matthew, and Judas developed into a general managerial committee of 3, although each of these 3 also did considerable religious work.
So they all took turns at preaching at one point or another, but Andrew, Matthew, and Judas end up doing the technical clerical work of the group. All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Andrew was much occupied with the task of adjusting the constantly recurring misunderstandings and disagreements between the disciples of John and the newer disciples of Jesus. Serious situations would arise every few days, but Andrew, with the assistance of his apostolic associates, managed to induce the contending parties to come to some sort of agreement, at least temporarily. Jesus refused to participate in any of these conferences. Neither would he give any advice about the proper adjustment of these difficulties. He never once offered a suggestion as to how the apostles should solve these perplexing problems. When Andrew came to Jesus with these questions, he would always say, "It is not wise for the host to participate in the family troubles of his guest. A wise parent never takes sides in the petty quarrels of his own children."
Now, why do you think Jesus had this attitude? Do you think it could be that because we're all going through an experiential life, so all of our experiences in life help us grow and develop our own spiritual outcomes, does it not? Individually. And so this is the same thing that happened during the early church with Peter and Paul. And that's how the doctrines of Paul got so popular, because of the forcefulness of Paul. But this is the same thing. When Jesus went through each one of his 7 bestowals, right? He had to experience them just like a being that was normally going through those experiences. And the only way you can do that is go from the base level of whatever being it is and experience it just like everyone else does. So Jesus would not take the experience away from even his apostles of them going through different experiences and working out their problems, because this is the normal way that they evolve into strong spiritual beings. And if he would have stepped in and say, it's this way or it's that way, then everyone would go his way. They would never get the opportunity to grow experientially in their own spiritual development. So while he's going through his 7th bestowal and going through all these experiences himself, and he already knows the outcome of these things, but if he took that away from his disciples and apostles, he would deprive them of having the experience themselves so they can grow spiritually. And that includes going all the way through life and dying just like everyone else does. So the total experience of living and the problems of living are part of the integration of the experience to your spiritual adulthood. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why he let him go through these things. He wouldn't step in and say, no, it's this way, or no, it's that way. And that's why he always taught them in parables too, because by teaching them in parables, they would develop their own thoughts on what he was trying to say, and he wouldn't correct them, would he? Never corrected them. Okay.
That seems to be true of the development of the Supreme Being.
It is.
Full experiential.
It is. You hit it right on the head, Letch. All these things go into the Supreme Being's experience, and they wouldn't have the opportunity to do that if Jesus just taught them everything and said, this is the way it is, and you don't have to think about it. Right? So it's a perfect example. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. The Master displayed great wisdom and manifested perfect fairness in all of his dealings with his apostles and with all of his disciples. Jesus was truly a master of men. He exercised great influence over his fellow men because of the combined charm and force of his personality. There was a subtle, commanding influence in his rugged, nomadic, and homeless life. There was an intellectual attractiveness and spiritual drawing power in his authoritative manner of teaching, in his lucid logic, his strength of reasoning, his sagacious insight, his alertness of mind, his matchless poise, and his sublime tolerance. He was simple, manly, honest, and fearless. With all of this physical and intellectual influence manifest in the Master's presence, there were also those spiritual charms of being which had become associated with his personality: patience, tenderness, meekness, gentleness, and humility.
I guess you could call him the master teacher, couldn't you? A perfect example of a master teacher. Because everyone's opinion is important. And that's why in our meetings and stuff, when y'all have ideas, it's important to express them because I say something is one way doesn't make it the law, does it? Doesn't make it true. You could have a different interpretation of what we're learning, and those interpretations are just as important as to whatever I have to say, right? Because it's your spiritual experience. All right. Okay, let's see here. Gary, you out there?
Yes.
Would you like to read the next one for us, please?
You want to see me?
Yep,
Well,
I can see you. Oh my goodness.
I
Hmm.
scared the heck out of you, didn't I?
Yeah.
You just wait till Halloween.
Yeah.
We can't wait.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Jesus of Nazareth was indeed a strong and forceful personality. He was an intellectual power and a spiritual stronghold. His personality not only appealed to the spiritually minded women among his followers, but also to the educated and intellectual Nicodemus and to the hardy Roman soldier. The captain stationed on guard at the cross, who, when he had finished watching the master die, said, "Truly, this was a son of God." And the red-blooded, rugged Galilean fisherman named him Master.
So there was no doubt when you interacted with Jesus, you sooner or later you figured out he is the Son of God and was the Son of God. And not only that, but those who followed him discovered he was the God of our universe too over time. All right. The pictures of Jesus have been most unfortunate. These paintings of Christ have exerted a deleterious influence on youth. The temple merchants would hardly have fled before Jesus if he had been such a man as your artists usually have depicted. He was a dignified man. He was a dignified manhood. He was good but natural. Jesus did not pose as a mild, sweet, gentle, and kindly mystic. His teachings was thrillingly dynamic. He not only meant well, but he went about actually doing good. So he did what he preached about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Roger,
Yeah.
that reminds me, there's this popular show called The Chosen.
Yeah, I've heard about it, haven't watched it, but
Uh,
yeah.
I watched the first episode or two, but the Jesus
Uh-huh.
is portrayed. He's very meek.
Yeah.
He's thin. He's like a little fairy. It's disgusting.
Yes. He's not the robust carpenter that we're used to
No,
reading about then. I think that's
he's
a
too sweet.
if unless I'm mistaken, I think that's a Catholic rendition of Jesus. I think he's a Catholic if I remember correctly. And so this is kind of the Catholic Church trying to reinvent itself to make itself more popular because of its downfall so much. So, which is kind of interesting. All right, who's next? You, dear?
Yes. The master never said, "Come to me, all you who are indolent and all who are dreamers," but he did many times say, "Come to me, all you who labor, and I will give you rest, spiritual strength." The master's yoke is indeed easy, but even so, he never imposes it. Every individual must take this yoke of his own free will.
And that's that system of choice, isn't it? Free will. You know, we all have to make the decisions for ourselves.
Mhm.
But I always thought this, come to me, all you who labor, and give me you rest, spiritual insight, strength.
Mhm.
You know, he's not, come to me if you're a dreamer. You know, I wouldn't have gone to him if he was. Okay. Pam, would you take the next one?
Uh-huh. Jesus portrayed conquest by sacrifice, the sacrifice of pride and selfishness. By showing mercy, he meant to portray spiritual deliverance from all grudges, grievances, anger, and the lust for selfish power and revenge. And when he said, "Resist not evil," he later explained that he did not mean to condone sin or to counsel fraternity with iniquity. He intended the more to teach forgiveness, to resist not evil treatment of one's personality, evil injury to one's feelings of personal dignity.
All right. So he was very careful to make himself clear on this, right? In
Can
other
you?
words, he wasn't teaching to fraternize with people doing evil by no stretch of the imagination. But he, go ahead, Gary.
Can you expound on the phrase resist not evil treatment of one's personality? Evil to one's feelings or personal integrity. So if someone comes up the street and wants to beat the crap out of me, I can beat the crap out of him.
Well, I wouldn't beat the crap out of him, but I
And
would
I got
physically resist him at every possible angle you could without going overboard and doing worse to him than he was going to do to you, right? There's no law against defending yourself. Even though Jesus taught his apostles, tried to teach his apostles not to defend themselves. But he had a different standard for those who claim to be apostles than just disciples. He made no bones about the disciples of Jesus defending themselves against the evil in the world, and that's what's out there. You know, when you see, let me give you a good example of that. When you see all these riots of people on TV and things like that doing unimaginable evil against their brothers and sisters. And there's nothing in the world wrong with defending yourself and your family and property. You know, that's all there is to it. And, y'all think I'm on this certain level, but I guarantee you, if someone's trying to wrong me in that manner, you can ask my wife. I am not a little wallflower. I will defend myself in a heartbeat,
He's a bear.
Did you hear that? She said, I'm a bear. I have a Indian name of Standing Bear, and I go from a meek guy to a bear when someone
thought you was,
crosses me.
I
Huh?
thought your Indian name was Running Bear. Didn't we go over
No,
that back?
no, running bear. No, no, it's Standing Bear. So,
Okay,
okay.
but that's
Uh,
still the name standing there. Never mind. But I can
um,
comment, or I'd like to have you comment.
it's kind of funny. I was looked up my heritage in Cherokee. I thought I was I thought I had a Cherokee heritage, and come to find out, when I went up there, I actually have Creek heritage, which is the other tribe, that constantly fought with the Cherokees. And I got that Indian name from the Cherokee chief while I was up there, because I'm in the line of the chiefs for the Creeks nation because of my great grandfather. But anyway, and while I was there, he said, "Do you know your Indian name?" And I said, "No, I don't." He said, "You're Standing Bear." He said, definitely. And I never met this guy before, so that's how I got my Indian name. Anyway,
I asked my question.
yes,
They say for give, and people like in our culture, if a person does something, you're supposed to forgive them and
turn the other cheek.
have a different take on it. And I want to
Yeah.
see if I'm wrong.
Pardon me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm
How
eating.
was,
Try
how
not
was
to.
that? Wrong? Is that what you ask?
Could I? I don't know if I could be wrong, but well, I did say it, but I'm losing my ego. Wrong. Yeah, if I could be wrong.
By turning the other cheek?
Well, here's my deal. If somebody says steal something from you,
Yes.
okay, I'll forgive them.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I'll forgive them, I'm not going to go around hating. It just hurts me.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not going to give them a second chance to steal from you a second time. I consider that not in the line of for forgiveness. That person responsible, and I look at them as two different things.
You should. It is two different things. Definitely.
So this thinks so that you forgive them and you're going to let them do it to you a second or third or fourth time is not necessarily right.
Not necessarily right. It depends on each and every circumstance. And then when Jesus said, give them, if they strike you on one cheek, give them the other. In other words, that's you're trying to be accommodating as much as possible, but he also taught the apostles not to let serpents take advantage of them. And we live in an age of serpents, if you think about it. There's so many. You cannot go through life in this planet without someone trying to take advantage of you every single day. And you know that by your own telephone. How many people call you and want to take advantage of you over the phone, especially if you're over 65? They do everything in the world to try to get your information. They want to steal your identity. They want to steal your money. And this goes on forever. And I have no patience with that kind of stuff, you know. And I
Mhm.
don't think Jesus expects you to either. That's not turning the other cheek. That's trying to keep the serpents from taking advantage of you. And that's what they are. They're just evil. And uh that's what he says his resist not evil treatment of one's own personality, evil injury to one's own feelings of personal dignity. Don't let yourself get to the point where every Joe, Mary, and Fred that comes along takes advantage of you and your family, because they will sure do it in this day and age, right? It's easy to do. So, all right. Be strong. Be strong, but be wise. Okay, who just read? Diane, did you?
Yeah, I
just-
did. Yes.
Pam, would you take this one, please?
Yeah. Number 4, teaching about the Father. While sojourning at Amethyst, Jesus spent much time with the apostles, instructing them in the new concept of God. Again and again, did he impress upon them that God is a father, not a great and supreme bookkeeper who is chiefly engaged in making damaging entries against his erring children on earth, recordings of sin and evil to be used against them when he subsequently sits in judgment upon them as the just judge of all creation. The Jews had long conceived of God as a king over all, even as a father of the nation, but never before had large numbers of mortal men held the idea of God as a loving father of the individual.
And that's important because why? Being the loving father of the individual, it does not matter what he is to the nation, does it? Because
Right.
each and every one of us individually relate to the universe and God. And as long as our relationship is right with God the Father, regardless of what happens to the nation, the politics, and all the other stuff involved in it, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you will advance on to the mansion worlds where there is justice. It's just in this world, there's not justice. If you're looking for justice in this world, you're looking in the wrong place because it's not here. We have a imitation justice system that's based on revenge and opinion, right? So if you're not of one opinion, you're going to get punished more than someone else's of another opinion. So that's just the way it is. And that's not the way God the Father works. God is not a stiff ruler. He is the father of his children. All right. Okay, Rodney.
In answer to Thomas's question, who is this God of the kingdom? Jesus replied, God is your Father, and religion, my gospel, is nothing more nor less than the believing recognition of the truth that you are his son. And I am here among you in the flesh to make clearer both of these ideas in my life and teachings.
And that is the whole purpose of his seventh bestowal, wasn't it? The fact that God is your father, and the gospel that they're supposed to be teaching is what? That he is our father and we are his sons. And that's the whole crux of the matter.
Right.
Right? Had nothing to do with sin, and had nothing to do with all the other things that add to your religion. It's that one paragraph right there. God is the Father, and religion, my gospel, which is Jesus's gospel, is nothing more or less, all the way across than believing the recognition of the truth that you're his son. All right. And that's the purpose of his whole seventh bestowal. That's why he came. Simple message, wasn't it? Letch, would you take the next one?
Yeah, okay. Jesus also sought to free the minds of his apostles from the idea of offering animal sacrifices as a religious duty. But these men, trained in the religion of the daily sacrifice, were slow to comprehend what he meant. Nevertheless, the master did not grow weary in his teaching. When he failed to reach the minds of all of the apostles by means of one illustration, he would restate his message and employ another type of parable for purposes of illumination. That's
Okay, so
exactly
Jesus,
what teachers should do, that type of
say that
thinking.
again, Letch. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'm just saying this is exactly what teachers should be doing when they're teaching. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's the whole idea, right? And it's taken us 2,000 years of Paul's religion and philosophy and we're at a turning point with the Urantia book to overcome this whole offering of sacrifices, right? That's going to be old news soon. And we're stepping into the new news that it's not necessary. Okay, Gary, would you take the next one?
Okay, this is an appropriate length. At this same time, Jesus began to teach the 12 more fully concerning their mission to comfort the afflicted and minister to the sick. The master taught them much about the whole man, the union of body, mind, and spirit to form the individual man or woman. Jesus told his associates about the three forms of affliction they would meet and went on to explain how they should minister to all who suffer from the sorrows of human sickness. He taught them to recognize, one, diseases of the flesh, those afflictions commonly regarded as physical sicknesses. Two, troubled minds, those non-physical afflictions which were subsequently looked upon as emotional and mental difficulties and disturbances. Three, the possessions of evil spirits.
And which one of those is no longer a concern?
3.
The possession.
That's right. You're right. Possession
Now,
of evil spirits because of the spirit of truth, that's no longer an issue, right? But the
it,
other two still are the diseases of the flesh, which we got tons of those going on, and the troubled minds. That seems to be a good number of the population right
Definitely.
now, right?
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Jesus banished Satan on Mount Hermon, is my understanding.
Yeah,
My understanding, he took away his power to influence people. But if you invited Satan, which on earth would be Caligasca,
right.
you it's still a possibility. So possession by evil by invitation is possible.
Through those evil spirits that are still out there, but the evil spirits that are still out there are not, how can I say this, physical entities any longer. All of the physical evil spirits that were out there, which were the primary and secondary midwayers, were taken off on Pentecost. So the evil we have to worry about today is no longer Calagassa. He's probably been taken off the planet by now too. But the evil in society itself, and we're talking about the ingrained evil in human beings. So if you want to let the concepts of evil in you and you want to accept that and become a devil worshiper or whatever you want to be, then you've made a decision to go against God the Father, and that's cosmic insanity. And once you make that decision, they can consider that a permanent decision. In other words, you can be sentencing yourself to cosmic death by doing that. Okay? Because if you're not following God, who are you following? Right? Satan or Lucifer. And we know both of them are going to be destroyed when the adjudication comes down. So, because the wages of sin is what?
Death.
Death. That's right. Not lollipops. Okay. Who's up next?
I just read a
You just
passage.
read, so I guess I'm up. Jesus explained to his apostles on several occasions the nature and something concerning the origin of these evil spirits. And that day often also called unclean spirits. The master well knew the difference between the possession of evil spirits and insanity. We got a lot of that around, don't we? But the apostles did not. Neither was it possible, in view of their limited knowledge of the early history of Urantia, for Jesus to undertake to make this matter fully understandable. But he many times said to them, alluding to these evil spirits, they shall no more molest men when I shall have ascended to my Father in heaven, and after I have poured out my spirit upon all flesh in those times when the kingdom will come in great power and spiritual glory. What's he talking about? Pentecost, right? It's exactly what he's talking
And
about.
he's also talking about the spirit of truth,
Yes,
which
being
is
poured
his
out.
spirit.
That's right. Y'all have to understand that the Spirit of truth and the Holy Spirit are external influences on us, but they guard us from any possibility of any evil spirits ever to possess human beings again. So everything you see around you going on is insanity of one type or another, either evil insanity, cosmic insanity, which leads to death, right? Or just a brain that does not function properly, right? This three different methods. All right.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe I shouldn't. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine.
I don't want to answer it. I got to, my brain's dead. No, go ahead and ask it, Gary.
This Islamic faith, which if you don't believe our way, you're a dead man,
Yes.
summarized it
Yeah.
quickly. Is that evil?
The act is evil, Gary, but the concept is not, because the Islamic people are trying to follow their concept of God. And that in itself is not evil. Okay. But when you go out and take the position that you are the judge, jury, and executioner, now that is evil. Okay. There's a difference.
So it's my limited understanding. There's two sects. One believes that if you don't believe, we kill you. And the other sect is that we'll let you alone.
Yeah.
I don't know who is who anymore.
Well, I can't tell the difference either, but that does not damn the entire Muslim society, because there are Muslims that believe in God wholeheartedly and they worship God wholeheartedly. That is not wrong. But when you go out and push your religion on other people, it'd be the same things during the Christian Crusades went out and tried to wipe out everybody that was not Christian. It's the same principle. That's not right either. Right?
No, we did that to the Native Americans.
Yeah, we did the same thing to the Native Americans. That's true. That's men always trying to push their opinions on other men. Okay, I believe you're up here.
From week to week and from month to month, throughout this entire year, the apostles paid more and more attention to the healing ministry of the sick.
Now, I want to bring up a point here. Jesus was the creator of the local universe, was he not?
Yes.
All right. And being the creator of the local universe, anything a creator son wishes to come into existence automatically comes into existence, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus had to be very, very careful in his healing ministry, not to just make everybody well, because if it was not the will of God the Father, then he would be exercising his creator son prerogatives over the will of the Father. You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
And so, since he was the creator son of the universe, it was nothing for Jesus to heal someone. But the apostles was a totally different story, was it not?
I'm not sure. He didn't give them the power to heal.
He did not give them the power to heal. He did not give anybody the power to heal. But what he did give him is the power to communicate the faith to be healed by faith.
Okay.
That's a difference. So he doesn't give away power for individuals to heal. It's only the faith of those individuals wanting to be healed that makes healing possible. So when you see these tent guys going around, healing people and that sort of thing, a lot of it is show. Okay. Because they don't have any more power than you and I do. All they're doing is, if they are actually healing people, it's not them healing, it's the power of those who have faith to be healed, which heals them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make that clear. So, that's why they're what they're talking about here. And this is the next section. I think I'm going to stop here since it's 6:53, and we'll take it up from here next time on spiritual unity. I don't want to mess up everybody's mind too much here. So let's stop the share and I'll share our prayer of acceptance. Share. Okay. Boy, I hit the wrong one, didn't I?
Mm.
Share. Where is it here? There it is. Okay. Sure, I'm glad I didn't have any porn on the screen, huh?
Uh,
Choking
Click
you
it
off.
to corner there quick. No, I'm just messing with you.
Okay, who wants to say the prayer tonight? Who wants to do the prayer tonight? Any volunteers?
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
So I'll pay the price.
Pay the price.
Yeah. Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe omnipotent, as Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Jesus, Michael, in the name of Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth, amen.
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 And thank you all for joining me. Please come and see me again next time, which is this
Roger,
Thursday?
can I ask you, did Diane hit you?
Huh?
Did Diane hit you?
No, that's just my normal illnesses, my eyes.
I would never hit him.
No,
He's too strong.
she wouldn't hit me. She's afraid her fist would bounce off and hit herself. So, like
So
Superman.
tire it out, Diane? Never mind. I'm just
No, this is a seasonal thing. It's my illnesses I got going on. There's a guy called this afternoon wanting to know about our trademark for Fifth Epical Revelation Fellowship. And he said someone was trying to steal our trademark. And I said, let them steal it. I said, I'm going to be 71 in another month or so here. Do I care? I am not going to be around that much longer. So if they really want to steal a religious trademark, they must need it awful bad and they're welcome to it. But anyway,
that itself was a scam.
yeah,
Yeah, it was.
yeah, it was something. So anyway, I love you guys. I love you guys out there that listen to us
Same
on
here.
YouTube and Facebook and everything
Yeah.
too. We really do. I'm glad you come and listen to us. We're getting quite a few views on our YouTube channel. We're over 3,000 videos on YouTube, so there's plenty to watch. Some of the old stuff is kind of hard to sit through, but it's when we used to have the meetings in the house. But it's still good information. It's still the Urantia book. So hopefully y'all get out there and watch it. And I'm done editing the book, Jesus, Who, What, When, and Where. So I hope to have it out there in the next couple months. As soon as I finish the copyright and stuff and all that. So y'all keep posted on that. Probably on Amazon. So
I have to say your book that I ordered from Amazon is really excellent.
well, thank you, Ledge.
Understandable.
Yep, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I hope everybody this book on Jesus is going to benefit a lot of people. It's a little simpler than the first one. I tried to keep it as simple as possible, but it's all about the bestowals and that sort of thing. And reading back through it for the fourth time, it came out pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it. So I think people will enjoy it. We'll see it when it comes out.
I have a hunch the Jesus one will have a broader appeal for the simple reason that people are more interested in Jesus.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will too. So we'll see. It'll be out soon. I'll let y'all know when it actually gets published. I got a few things, my copyright and the scanning things and all that stuff's got to be done before I can send it out there. So everything's got a process, right? Any way you look at it. All right, y'all. I will see everybody next time. I guess
Thank
it'll
you,
be
Roger.
Tuesday. You're welcome. Thanks for the help. Rodney helped me with something in the book today I was working on. So thanks for the help, Rodney. It's a group effort. All right, you guys. We'll see you
Love you
next
guys.
time, Tuesday.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Right, night.
Good night.